All right, everybody, welcome in to our brand new podcast here on PremierLeagues1.com, Bills Weekly. Happy you could join us here today. I am Paul Russo. I'll be joined always on here. We'll get to when and how you can find us here in a second, but joined as always by Kyle Evans. Kyle, happy you could be here today.
Yeah, thrilled. NFL opening week. I can't wait.
Yep. And Jim Sinicropi. Jim, happy you could be here as well.
Labor Day weekend's gone. It's football time. I got my one and only fantasy draft tonight at 9 o'clock. And then, we're just a couple days now away from opening game, Kansas City and Detroit on Thursday night.
Yep. So, obviously, if you're here and you can see the name Bills Weekly, that's exactly what this is going to be. Buffalo Bills centric, obviously, here. Going to be coming to you guys normally Monday. We'll recap the game that was, look ahead to the week that will be, and any other kind of major headlines that you might see pop up regarding the Bills. But as in the case of today and even next week, Monday Night Football is the case. So that will be Tuesday is when you'll be able to see us here on Bills Weekly. Any other time, really, it will be Monday. So that being said, you can find us here on YouTube, PremierLeagues1.com, as well as other major podcasting platforms. But before we get any further, to give a shout out to our sponsor, Ticino's Pizzeria and Restaurant. You can visit Ticino's Pizzeria and Restaurant at their original Waterloo location, all new renovated location in Geneva, or at Del Lago Resort and Casino. Dine in, take out, delivery, catering, and banquets. Order online at Ticino's.com. Live, laugh, and eat well. It's the Italian way.
Get some charbroiled wings for opening week or for Monday Night Football. You know, get home from work, either stop by, get some charbroiled wings.
So good.
Yep.
Pizza,
and
get ready to go.
Personally for me, buffalo chicken calzone.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a good one
very
right
good.
there.
That's very good. They have lunch specials too, which are great. But if you're looking for Monday night for some, traditional Monday Night Football fare, I like the charbroiled wings.
Good call. Good call indeed. All right, so obviously, Jim, you kind of teed it up a little bit nicely there. I thought you kind of took the words out of my mouth a little bit, right? We're through Labor Day weekend. We are officially at the doorstep of the NFL regular season beginning, almost at the doorstep of Monday Night Football for the Bills next week for their first game. So I figured first, let's take a couple minutes here to discuss the preseason that was for the Bills. Their first 3 games, obviously, the preseason games, 2-1 in that stretch. Defeated the Colts 23-19, a loss at Pittsburgh 15-27, and then a win at Chicago to wrap that up 24-21. Kyle, I'll go over to you here first on this one. Preseason for football, right? Obviously, I always, for me, myself, take it with a grain of salt, right? You don't, especially now with 3 preseason games, you really don't see a ton of the starters for an extended period of time. A lot of it really is, right, figuring out who's going to be the backups, right, on the depth chart, your second or third teamers. So what were some of your takeaways from the preseason games that you were able to see?
Yeah, the second one in Pittsburgh was, for it being the offense of starters, it wasn't good. A lot of penalties, a lot of punts. And then Sean McDermott decided to start Allen for that finale in Chicago, which normally Josh Allen doesn't play more than one preseason game and only usually like a quarter. But because it was so bad in Pittsburgh, they brought the starters in for Chicago, and I thought they played really well. Everything was in sync. Diggs caught a couple balls. Gabe Davis caught some. So, I don't take too much away either from preseason, but the game in Pittsburgh just looked very rough. And it is concerning, though, because it was the starters against their starters. But now I think they're on the right page. I think they'll be ready to go. And, of course, they get some extra practice time being that Monday night game.
Sure, yeah. Jim, any thoughts for the preseason?
Well, Diggs didn't come to the mandatory preseason workouts and stuff, so that might have contributed to why they didn't look so great on the field. I mean, there was just a lot of lack of cohesion, I think. That might have contributed to it. Leslie Frazier's gone.
Yep.
Sean McDermott's taken over defensive play calling duties and defensive coordinator duties, and so the preseason for him on the sideline was a little different too, I suppose. So, but all in all, I don't care about preseason.
Yep.
Like we'll see what happens on Monday night and go from there.
Right. Yeah, no, that's one of the things. Like I said, for me too as well. Right, it's tough because, like I said, especially down to 3 preseason games now. I suppose for a couple teams it's technically 4 because of the Hall of Fame game, but that
It
wasn't.
should be 0. Do an inter-squad scrimmage or something if you want. I hate NFL preseason. I hate all preseasons, except for spring training for baseball. That's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I was about to say, I think I'd be fine maybe with like 1 for just like maybe a true tune-up type thing, but like.
Yeah, you get to the second and third one, you're like, man, I just want this to end. And then a lot of times there's like position battles, like for the Bills, backup quarterback. But those quarterbacks are going against third, fourth string guys. Like, you're not really getting a true test of how they would react to a starting defense.
Right.
So, and that was the case for the Bills. They were looking for their backup quarterback, and it ended up being Kyle Allen. But, I mean, he wasn't great, and he was playing third and fourth string guys. So, I don't know. I don't take away much either from the preseason.
You bring up a good point here. So I actually do want to jump into this. I kind of had it maybe pegged for after kind of talking a little bit of the schedule, but I think because we're kind of talking about it right now, let's bring it up. Depth chart, right? And roster maybe overall. To me, when I see the Bills' final roster, at least not final, but going into week 1, the finalized one, it's a roster that relatively remained, I called intact more or less from last year, right? They didn't really go out in free agency and really made any big splashes in the grand scheme of it, right? Certainly, I guess, can make that case also. They didn't exactly maybe lose anybody truly in free agency this past offseason to a degree.
Yeah, except Tremaine Edmonds. I'd say he was kind of a big piece. And I know a lot of fans were complaining about him last year. He had his rough stretches, but with him off the field now, it's just Milano, and then you don't really know who's the other linebacker out there. They got more like inexperienced guys now out there with Milano, and I think that's also a big thing to watch this upcoming season. It always was Milano Edmonds for like 3, 4, 5 years or whatever it was, and now it's Milano and who.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's a big question mark going into the year.
Yeah, I mean, and to me, depth chart wise, there was a lot of question marks, and for me, this is where I kind of look at a lot of things, right? An interesting thing that I always kind of look at is what is your line situation kind of like a little bit. And I'm only going just to say as like maybe a bit of an example here, right? But I looked at the depth chart, and the only position really on the whole roster outside of your specialties, right, your kicker, punter, that's a little bit different in that sense. And the only position that they didn't have even a second or third team backup for it was actually right tackle on the offensive line to Spencer Brown. And now you have guys in the offensive line that can maybe swap around a little bit, and I get that. But that kind of raised the red flag maybe for me in a sense, right? The fact that you didn't have anybody necessarily tabbed to go directly in that spot should something happen to Spencer Brown. Is that a big thing to look at in either of your guys' opinions at all?
Injuries are the biggest thing to look at for any NFL team, that's vying to be a conference champion and playing the Super Bowl. And so with the Bills, I look at you got to be real excited about their defense going into this year, but they're ending the season without Von Miller. He was, in my opinion, he was the main reason that they weren't able to, get to a Super Bowl last year. And you're starting the season without him. When he comes back, is he going to be, 100%? And then I look at they got such a great secondary, but can Hyde and Poyer stay healthy all season? Because losing one of them would be a big loss. Losing anybody on the offensive line is troublesome. And but yeah, can they avoid injuries? Because if what they have as starters is on par with what they've had the past few years when they've won the AFC East 3 years in a row.
Sure.
But are we going to hand them the AFC East title, or are we looking at a team? Is this team a AFC Championship or Super Bowl contender? And I don't know. It's tough to get that excited given what's happened the past couple of years. They haven't been that level, or there's been some reason why they haven't been able to. I don't think they've improved on the teams of the past couple of years, and I don't think the competition in the AFC has gotten any worse. As a matter of fact, I think it's gotten better at the top.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I don't think also a lot of people realize that the games that Von Miller is going to miss, 2 of them are against divisional opponents in the Jets and the Dolphins. So 2 of the 8 games against division opponents, Von Miller's not there. And we saw what happened last year, when he tore his ACL. They just couldn't get to the quarterback as well with him out, and I do think it's a big loss. I mean, I know it's only 4 games, but that does hurt.
Well, but when he comes back, is he going to still be as explosive and still be, an elite one of the best linebackers in the game, difference maker. That's what remains to be seen as far as Von Miller goes. If he is, then great. Then I think that really elevates this team. But other than that, I don't see what they've done to improve on the past few years, while the entire division has improved. Every single team in the AFC East, even the Patriots, I think, are improved.
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots, I think their main signing this offseason, right? Juju Smith-Schuster, that obviously improves a spot of need, obviously, for them in the wideout spot. Miami's pretty much collectively only gotten better as they've gotten older, kind of similar, I guess, to maybe the Bills a few years ago, right? When
they're one of the
Josh
most
kinda-
exciting teams in
yeah.
the league. On the offensive side especially, which is something like kind of the Bills did a few years ago. They were the new high-powered offense. Josh Allen came into his own. Well, guess what? The Bills' offense is not as good as the Dolphins if the Dolphins are healthy. Like, the Bills can't match Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, for example. And you can argue, say, Josh Allen's better than Tua Tagovailoa, but I don't know. I think that the best offense in the AFC East is the Dolphins this year.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with that, I don't think, but the caveat to there is something actually Jim, you've actually brought up now a couple different times with different, whether it's, talking about the Bills or the Dolphins, right, is health. And I think that's a key part of it for, I'd say especially Miami in the case. We obviously know about Tua's
Right.
concussion issues and stuff like that. And
Can't predict injuries, so
no.
but they will play a part. And then, of course, if we're talking about the division, we didn't mention the Jets yet.
Yeah.
You had Aaron Rodgers. You had Dalvin Cook came over in a trade.
And their defense has always been pretty good.
Yeah.
So you're adding a upgraded offense with already a really good defense. They're going to be a great team.
Yeah.
So the past few years where the Bills have won the AFC East, there really hasn't been any competition outside the Dolphins a little bit, but it's been a cakewalk, and it's not going to be the case this year. And so the Bills were 13-3 last year. It's going to be tough to match that. I think the over/under for wins them right is 10.5 right now on DraftKings Sportsbook. So, yeah, it's not a guarantee that they'll even win the AFC East, let alone the AFC Championship.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and the Jets, I don't know if they necessarily fascinate me. They're going to be an interesting story all year, because one way or another. And I think that's part of it for me, is like, just because I don't know about, is it going to be too much of a soap opera going on there, or is it going to be a storyline because they're just playing that good of football?
The Bills are just as big a soap opera lately as the Jets potentially could be. Like, this Stephon Diggs stuff is disconcerting, like, and I always get upset. He is a star caliber player, but there's probably a dozen Stephon Diggs caliber wide receivers in the NFL. And, Diggs just draws a lot of attention to himself. He's so upset because, they lost in the playoffs. But then he doesn't start this season the way you would expect one of your leaders to start a season, by missing out on the mandatory OTAs and all that stuff. And it's just, I don't know. I just have this uneasy feeling about the Bills this year, where I remember going into last season, even 2 years ago, it was so exciting to get started to see what they could do. And I worry if this is the backside of their window. Last year it's thought that was the year, right? That was, and so now is this year. I don't know if there's as much optimism about the potential for this to be the year. And let's face it, when it comes down to it, the only thing that's going to be satisfy Bills Mafia would be a Super Bowl championship, especially with this franchise who's been denied one, for so long and come so close so many times. And I don't see them as that caliber team, but could be wrong. Talk to me again in week 6 or 7, and we'll see how they're looking.
Yeah, I mean, to me, to piggyback off you a little bit, I feel like, and I don't know if they necessarily have plateaued in that sense, right, where you talk about them being maybe at the back end of their window, but the way they are currently, I'd say, like, assembled, that's where I feel like they've plateaued a little bit, right? Where, kind of like we mentioned, right, they didn't they didn't really do anything like in the offseason.
Traded
to
up
make an
2
improvement.
spots
Yeah.
to get another tight end, and I thought everybody liked Knox, but now it's going to be
Dalton Kincaid.
Kincaid, and they traded up 2 spots to get Kincaid. Now, can he be a difference maker? Because certainly, when you're talking about teams that you're battling for the AFC crown, for, you're going to have to go through Travis Kelce, and the Bills don't have a Travis Kelce. Nobody does, just the Chiefs. But can Kincaid become, in his rookie year, a equitable, counterpart to the Chiefs' Kelce? It seems highly unlikely. But we'll see. That's, to me, is exciting to see. Can he be a 1,000-yard receiver? Can he be a 10-touchdown guy, a true red zone threat for the Bills to add another element to this ultra exciting offense? And while we're on the subject of what's new and different that could be upside at the running back position, they got James Cook. I never understood the apathy towards Singletary. I thought he was certainly more than serviceable. It always seemed like, the Bills were kind of looking to move past him, and now they have James Cook, and we'll see how he looks.
Yeah, and adding Damian Harris in free agency and adding Latavius Murray, who is up there in age, but I guess from reports looked pretty good in preseason and training camp. So yeah, a little bit of a different running back room this year. I never really liked the Singletary-Moss pairing. Yep. I just didn't think it worked out well at all. Damian Harris is going to be a good red zone threat with his size. He can punch it in the end zone. Cook is more of your shifty guy that that gets you up the field. And I don't really know how they're going to use Latavius Murray. Maybe just more of a red zone guy too. But yeah, a little bit of a different running back room. And then they did add a couple receivers in Deontay Hardy and Trent Sherfield, who are basically known for their speed. I know Brandon Beane is, kind of wanted to make the team faster on offense, and I think they did by doing this. And Deontay Hardy will be more of a return guy, but I'm wondering if we're going to see more of maybe reverses and maybe more trick plays, because now they have speed that can, potentially move them up the field better, and they're not just throwing it to Diggs Davis.
Yeah.
And I just think they're going to be more creative.
Davis hopefully being back 100% health-wise too is an upgrade over last season, I suppose, too, right?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. For me, that's kind of my bounce-back player on the team. I think Gabe Davis struggled last year, wasn't even close to how he was his first year. So for me, that's a guy that I think is going to bounce back and play well. And I don't know if you remember, but it seemed like he dropped a lot of balls last year in big spots. But then he also made some nice catches. But I just think the consistency is going to be there more this year.
Yeah, similar to how he was at the second half of the season 2 years ago, when he was really a difference maker, especially in big games. So hopefully he'll bring that. I mean, big receiver to complement someone like Diggs. And then, like you said, the new receiving core guys, hopefully they find roles as well. But those are the things, like I say, that are different from what we saw on the field last year. And it's not that feeling like, remember when they brought in Diggs? Mm-hmm. And it was like, wow, now we're ready to go. There wasn't a move like that this year. And, of course, you can't add a Stephon Diggs every year. But I thought maybe they might have had somebody on the defensive side of the ball, similar to how they added Von Miller last year. But there hasn't been that major thing other than, Kincaid, an unproven rookie from Utah, who we don't, are they going to run some two tight end sets?
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing a lot.
Yeah.
But then he's getting compared already to Travis Kelce. It's like, all right, let's hold the brakes there. But yeah, I do think it's a good addition. I just, he hasn't even played a game yet. Let's just see how it goes first. And how will Dawson? Remember, Dawson Knox got an extension not too long ago.
I thought they were happy. I thought he was their tight end of the future. Now it doesn't hurt to have a couple tight ends, but on Monday night, one of the things I'll be looking at is how many targets are going to Kincaid. Is he going to get targeted 7-8 times a game, or is he going to get targeted 2 or 3 times a game? And then when they get in the red zone, what's that going to look like? You already have Gabe Davis as a red zone target hog, and Allen's always a threat to run. So we'll see. It could be the most pleasant of surprises because the Bills definitely wanted him. They gave up a lot to get him in the draft.
Yeah, I was about to say the disrespect going on right now towards Andy Isabella is just.
Well, he is on the practice squad, but
that's not the point. let's take a look here, kind of at the schedule a little bit. We'll go an expanded view here. Obviously, teeing off with the Jets Week 1 Monday Night Football, but go deeper, right? Vegas, the Raiders come into Buffalo on Week 2, then Week 3 on the road back in Washington, and Week 4 for me is actually a spot that I do have highlighted here, and that is home against Miami. But for me, it begins, and I know this might seem a bit perplexing or far-fetched, but it's a 10-week run where it's a long time before you get to a bye, and there's a lot of traveling going on in there for the Bills this year. So Week 4 is home against Miami. Week 5, you're playing Jacksonville in England and London.
Yeah.
You turn around at that point. You're back on Sunday Night Football against the Giants. You play the Patriots in Foxborough the week after, Week 7. Week 8, Thursday night against Tampa Bay, home. Then Week 9, Sunday Night Football at Cincinnati. Then you have Monday Night Football against Denver Week 10. Week 11, you're home against the Jets. Week 12, you're at Philly. And then you finally get the bye in Week 13, only to have to face Kansas City in Kansas City on Week 14.
Lucky for
it's a
them, they
stretch.
do come off a bye before they have to play that game. But, all those teams you mentioned, Raiders, Commanders, are really the only two games that you think are gimme games. And no, there's not a gimme game in the NFL. But let's face it, if the Bills lose in Week 2 to the Raiders at home, that would be very shocking.
To use a baseball term, that runs specifically for the Bills. There's no easy out there.
Yeah.
There's nowhere really to hide.
Well, that's the nature of the NFL, but because the division is tougher now, any Bills fan will tell you too, the Jets game was never a gimme game. Bills would get the win, but man, some tough, hard-fought games for a team that you would think the Bills were much better than, and now you add Aaron Rodgers to the mix, as well as the general upgrades that the Jets have made across the board on offense and defense, and now that it's another 2 weeks of your season that you have a stern test that you're going to get beat up and going to be tough wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the 4 games too past the Chiefs to end the season, you got Cowboys, Chargers, Patriots, Dolphins. That's not even going to be easy. And then if you're in like a tight division race at the end of the year, you get the Patriots, Dolphins back to back to close out the year. Those games could be very big. And another thing is the Patriots, like a lot of people, of course they're not getting the love because, they're not as good as these other teams, but the Patriots played the Bills very tough the last couple of years. Coming down to the fourth quarter, I think it was last year in Buffalo. There's really not a lot of easy games on this schedule.
Yeah, and I don't think Bill Belichick's sticking around New England just for,
Right.
the heck of it. I think he wants to rebuild this franchise back into a Super Bowl contender. So if that's the plan and he's such a great coach, then they're going to be a little closer this year than they were last year. So it's, again, across the board, every divisional game will be tougher this year for the Bills than it was last year.
And we forgot to even mention, too, the Patriots now have Ezekiel Elliott as their running back.
Yeah, which he'll pound on the Bills' defense.
Yep. So, it's just schedule is just crazy hard.
Yeah, and it probably is the case too across the league.
Yep.
The NFL by nature is just a very balanced league, and there's talent, and some of the we might be thinking the Jets experiment could fail, and maybe by the second time they play them, the Jets are an under 500 team, and and the Bills are 5-point favorites or something like that, but. For now, it just, to me, if you compare this team to last team, same team, harder schedule, 13-3 regular season is going to be almost impossible to replicate.
No, definitely. And, I think the kicker, too, is, and obviously, right, every team, like you said, Jim, is going to have to deal with this to some degree, right? But the end of year flexing this year is something that we haven't seen before either, right? Week 18 for the Bills, it's at Miami. But it's TBD. They don't know what day they're playing yet. They don't know what time they're playing yet. And like I said, it goes across the board, right, with every team, especially that week. But for example, week 17, that game, even though it's 1 p.m. right now, who knows what might happen? That might be flexed to who knows when as well. So
I think Sean McDermott's putting a lot of pressure on himself this year. I think to not have a guy like Leslie Frazier on your staff is going to be more difficult for him. I think that, like I say, the ability to replicate what they even did last year is going to be difficult, and I can see Sean McDermott being under some pretty serious stress as the season goes on, especially if they trip up along the way and lose at Washington in Week 3, or if they lose on Monday night to the Jets. I think the best thing, obviously, for any team would be to get off to a hot start, but the expectation of Bills Mafia and the national media and the local media could really start to wear on Sean McDermott, given he's already got these additional defensive coordinator role, if they don't get off to a good start. So things can spiral. And I don't mean to be negative. I'm not a Bills fan by nature. Here at Finger Lakes One, they're our team. And so I root for them because that gives us more stuff to talk about and more attention for people to come to our website and read about the Bills. I grew up a Giants fan, and in the world of fantasy football emerged, like a lot of people, you become a fan of the league as much as you do a team. But so maybe I'm looking at it a little bit more subjectively than Kyle, who's a lifelong Bills fan.
Uh-huh.
But do you agree, Kyle, that like the pressure's kind of on this year, and if it goes south, it could be like almost disastrous?
Yeah, it definitely doesn't have that same feel, that same hype. And even the national media last year was just hyping up the Bills left and right. And now that's the case with the Jets. So, yeah, I do agree with you. A lot of pressure. This seriously has to be the Super Bowl we hear. I can't imagine what the offseason will be next year. If they, like, say they lose a wild card round, say they don't win the division, lose in the wild card round. Again, they're taking another step back from where they did 2 years ago. So, yeah, I agree. Sean McDermott's under a lot of pressure. And even the offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey, remember how much he got on him last year with the fans, like, just tearing him apart for the play calling and stuff? First year, now it's his second year. So, yeah, there's a lot of pressure on this team.
Yep, from top to bottom, including Josh Allen. Like, so as you mentioned, if they don't make it to probably an AFC Championship game loss might be something that would be.
Yeah, remember, they didn't even get out the divisional round last year.
Yeah, and then they might not this year too, because when you talk about that, you look at what Cincinnati, Kansas City, up and coming teams like Jacksonville in the AFC, even teams like there might be a team like the Steelers this year might be better.
That's an interesting team. I was thinking about them. I don't know how they're going to do this year. Kenny Pickett, another year under his belt, maybe he more developed. But
Mike Tomlin always has a winning team, so he's going to put them in position to, when they get into the playoffs, if they're healthy. My point being that the AFC is very, very difficult, and we're just talking about the AFC East is one thing, but getting to the playoffs, to get to an AFC championship game, you're going to have to beat Bengals or Chiefs. And it's again, those teams, none of those teams have regressed, and there's only other teams, like I said, I mentioned Jacksonville, even a team like the Denver Broncos, who were just terrible last year, could end up putting it together this year, with the new coach, and it's just a really, really, really tough conference at the top and the middle, tougher than the NFC, I believe. And and the Bills fans have all these expectations, but so do Bengals fans, so do Chiefs fans. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be exciting to see, though. Like I say, if they get off to a good start, then all that good mojo is gonna be rolling, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that was actually, Jimmy kind of took my big take of the year, actually, in a way, is I do believe, and I got to be honest, the more I think about this, the more I definitely believe, like, if the Bills end up floundering away here this year, I could see them moving legitimately on from Sean McDermott. At some point, and this goes in any sport, any team, right? At some point, sometimes you just need to change the voice in the locker room type thing. And he's gotten them to a point, but sometimes maybe that's all he can get out of those guys is at a certain point.
Well, that would be really disappointing, because I like Sean McDermott, and I think that But you're right. I don't know if he's the caliber of coach that can compete with an Andy Reid. I mean, look, that's one thing, I'm looking at right now. You'd give me Bills, Chiefs in the playoffs, both teams getting through the season, both being healthy. I'll probably put my money on Andy Reid.
Yeah, and we've seen the past games where they've met in the playoffs. So yeah, I would agree with you. It's tough to trust the Bills right now based on what we've seen from the previous years. And eventually, like Paul said, you get to a point in time where you're not getting over that hump. You got to make the move, I guess, in some department.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where, like I said, I don't wish it upon Sean McDermott. I don't like seeing a guy get fired for, frankly, having success at a certain point, only for something to go sideways enough that it costs him a job, right? But at the end of the day, it is a business. It is whatever. You're competing, right? You don't go out there to lose games. You go out there to win games and win championships. And for a Bills team, like you guys have just been saying, right? This is a team that the expectation has to be at a certain point here beyond just getting to the FC Championship game, right? It has to be winning the Lombardi Trophy come the second weekend of February.
I don't think that this Bills team has a chip on their shoulder either, like maybe the Bengals do. The Bengals could make an argument that the referee stole it from them last year. The Chiefs always seem to have a chip on their shoulder. Like last year after they won the Super Bowl, Travis Kelce saying, y'all, didn't think we could do it, or nobody said you couldn't do it, Travis. Like, we all expected you to be here. But, they have that chip on their shoulder. Like, they got something to prove. And the Bills have every reason to have that chip on their shoulder. But until we see them hit the field, I can't know if that's going to translate or if they really do have that chip on their shoulder. And, again, I go back to Leslie Frazier not being there is a bigger loss than I think people are making it out to be.
Yeah, I do have to quickly apologize here. Internet sluggish at the moment, so Jim, the camera's going to be stuck on you here for a moment. So let's kind of jump in here for the week that will be Monday Night Football this week against the Jets. Already mentioned, right? Monday Night Football, that'll be on your, well, if you're a Spectrum customer, hopefully you'll be able to view on ESPN. Or I guess ABC or ESPN2, depending upon if you're a Manning caster or not. Kyle, I'll go to you first here. What's kind of your expectation for this game, week, right? Game one of seeing everybody in more or less 100% full form. So throw it over to you.
So we kind of just went over, how difficult it's going to be and stuff, but I got this weird feeling that the Jets got all the hype going into this game, and it's in their stadium, and the storyline would just be so perfect for them to go out and win, and Rodgers to have a nice night. But I got this feeling that the Bills win this game. And I'll just make a score prediction, too, while we're at it. I'll say 27-23 Bills win. It'll be a tight game. But I just have this feeling that Bills go in, kind of spoil their opener, and grab a big road win to start the year.
Jim, expectations for week one?
Is there 2 Monday night games this week like there has been in the past?
Not this week. Starting next week, I think week 2, 3, 4, it's doubleheaders.
Oh, that's kind of weird how they're doing that. I like it, honestly, because you don't have any bye weeks yet, so you're not losing anything on Sunday if you like to watch football all day, especially fantasy sports fans. You got a full slate of games Sunday, and then, you get to look forward to Monday, not just a 1 game and 2 game. And I'm a bit of a night owl, too, so I don't mind seeing the, West Coast game that kicks off at, 9 or o'clock. So, but back to the question, predictions, Jets, Bills. Oh, man, I think it's going to be a close game, just by nature. The Bills and Jets played close games last year. And, all the hype surrounding Aaron Rodgers coming to New York. I mean, that's the game of the week in the NFL without a doubt, and it's a coin toss game. If the Bills lose the game, it doesn't mean their season's over. They'll have a chance to redeem themselves against the Jets later on in the season. They'll still have a chance to have among the best records in the AFC. So it's not a do or die game or anything like that. It's just a big week 1 game with a lot of attention on it, a lot of eyeballs on Monday Night Football. It would be great to see the Bills come out of there with a win, but I can't with confidence say that they're going to win that game. As a matter of fact, if it was a money line play, I'd lean towards the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because spoiler alert, if you don't know this about me, I'm about the biggest Aaron Rodgers hater on the planet. So there is nothing I would love more for I guess in this situation, the Jets to collectively come out, specifically Aaron Rodgers, and look flatter than a piece of paper. I mean, and I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case. I just think in a situation, even though we've just spent the past half hour or so kind of talking about how, in a way, this Bills team, right, we were kind of knocking it for being the same. I think that's actually going to be a big play in week 1, actually. They know each other. They know their tendencies. They know kind of, frankly, how they all play off of each other. And you're going against a team that, sure, they have the reps in practice, but not really in game form. I think I think the Bills get a victory in week 1 over the Jets.
I don't think it'll be Aaron Rodgers that beats him. I think the Jets' defense will be the one that wins that game for the Jets.
Late Josh Allen interception could be the difference.
Sauce Gardner.
I think a team that just doesn't quite have that cohesion yet.
Hey, when we're back here for episode 2, we'll see. It'll be next Tuesday, and we'll know a lot more about maybe what this season ahead looks like. We'll know a lot more about maybe how they're going to use Kincaid. A lot more about how that wide receiver position looks. A lot more about how the Bills linebacking core, stacking up without Von Miller back yet. And we'll also obviously know a lot more about the Jets, although I think we know as much as we could ever hope with the Hard Knocks this year. But
sure, yeah.
And I do have an update quick, sorry, Paul, on the Monday Night Football doubleheaders. They're only spaced out by an hour. It's 7:15, 8:15.
Oh, that's too bad.
And it's only going to be for week 2 and week 3.
So they're going to overlap.
Yep, so one's going to be on ESPN and one's going to be on ABC.
Geez, I might have to fire up NFL Red Zone again for it.
Weren't they kind of like that, though, back in the day for the first week where they were kind of staggered like that?
No, the late game.
They used to have like a late game, yeah.
I think it was, as a matter of fact, I think it was a West Coast game that started around 10 o'clock.
Yeah. I used to love that. I used to get over about 1 a.m.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. So I will admit defeat on that one. I don't know why.
It's kind of surprising that they're going to overlap and there's only an hour difference.
Yeah.
Because, not everyone has 2 TVs or
First
multiple
half isn't
TVs.
even over in the first hour, so.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the thought's more or less just at that point. Not that you're. I mean, I don't know. My only logic there is maybe they think somebody's going to get footballed out and they're only going to go follow their favorite team at that point.
Well, that is the thing about the NFL is, they got these passionate people that are passionate about their team, and when their team's playing, they're going to watch it start to finish. Mm-hmm. But the other great thing about the NFL is it's the one sport that you can follow the whole league week to week. Like, you can't follow the entire unless you want to spend a good 12 to 14 hours a week throughout your summer following Major League Baseball.
Which is me. I know it's crazy.
It's tough to do.
Yeah.
And same thing with the NBA. There's so many games every night. Hockey, but football you can do it. You can catch a game on Thursday night. You can settle in on Sunday and watch NFL Red Zone or bounce around with the remote. And then you got the Monday night. So as the season goes on, you really watch it. You really see a lot of these.
One of the things I just thought, are the games, when you saw, are they both on, say, ESPN or on, like, I guess, not to make a dated
NFL Network game?
I was going to say, are they linear or it's like one, like, say, an exclusive to say, like, ESPN?
It just says ESPN for the first game, the 7:15 game, and then the 8:15 game ABC.
Oh, okay.
And then the following week is the same thing.
Okay.
Early game is the early game, the week 3 is ABC, and then the other game is ESPN.
Okay. Yeah, because my only logic.
Flops.
My only logic.
Probably the announcer's Joe Buck.
Right. My only logic. My only logic there was the fact that maybe they're putting one behind a paywall type thing, but
yeah, I'm kind of shocked they aren't doing that.
So much for that, I guess. Then. So, I think it's mission successful for the first episode of Bills Weekly. How about that?
Yeah, a lot of questions that'll be answered when the season starts, and I really grow tired of preseason speculation for no matter what it is, whether it's Syracuse basketball, Bills football, whatever it is. Let's get it going.
Yeah, we're just about there, Jim.
Yep.
Good luck tonight, by the way, in your draft. Hopefully, You didn't. I know you didn't say on the show. I don't want to force your hand here. You don't have to say, but good luck in your pick area because it's a tough spot that you're in.
Yeah, 14-team league. I'm drafting 14th, which means I get the 15th pick too, which is great.
Well,
but
actually,
then
that part is great. Yeah.
We'll make a sandwich before I pick again
Right.
in round 3.
Yeah. You might.
You'll have plenty of time.
Yeah.
I was about to say start a bonfire too while you're at it. You know, you have your plenty of picks of what you want to do.
Yep.
Kyle. I don't know. What do you have anything fantasy wise or anything like that
Yeah,
we
I'm
can
in
wish you
3
good luck for?
I'm
Or?
in 3 drafts.
Okay.
I already have done 2 of them.
Okay.
Tomorrow I'm doing another one with
Good
a
luck
guy
to
that
you.
you guys both know, Cesar Ortiz.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
Is
my
his
guy.
league for the community center. Yep.
I love the drafts right before the season starts. You know.
Yep. So that's another money league. So yeah, I'm in quite a bit of leagues, and I think I'm going to start betting more this year on the games, and hopefully it goes well. And I'm just really excited. I love football season. I love NFL Sunday, just sitting there all day.
Yep.
But then it overlaps with the other sports I like. So thank God for my multiple TV setup.
Well, you aren't going to have to worry about watching the Yanks in the postseason this year.
Yeah,
going into your NFL
that's true.
viewing. But that brings us to another thing mentioned in betting. Thursday we'll be back talking with our picks for the week for the NFL, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we'll be
Every
back about this time, I believe. In fact, for the live version of that. So. FL1 Sports Betting. Looking forward to that. So hopefully,
Summer's
make sure
over.
you guys are gonna have to do your homework here. You know, I know school's about to be back in session for some. I know it's back already for others.
I'm
but,
heading to South Seneca tonight for a girls' varsity soccer game.
You guys have been busy with that already, though.
Yeah, they're 2-0 already, and
Hey.
it's not even the first day of school's today.
Yeah. So, how about that?
Make it 3-0 tonight.
I'm hoping for it. I don't know what the line is, but I think we're favored.
Good luck then tonight as well. I got one more draft that's tonight as well. So
How many leagues are you in?
just 2. I do 2. I do 2, and then I'm doing it's weird, like an advisory role in another. So.
Well, it was like if you go back to the late 1990s, I might have been in 5 or 6 leagues, and you know what? After a while, I was like, "This, I don't like this. I just want my one league, winner, ride or die."
I was in 5 a couple years ago, and I
Too
was just
much.
like, yeah, I was.
Every time somebody
too.
scores, you don't even know if it's good or bad.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd say it benefits me, and I remember one time this was in the 5 teams I had at one point. I did have Kelsey in one, and was going against Kelsey
Yeah,
in
that
2
happens.
others. It's just like cheat,
Yeah.
like it's just like brutal. It's brutal.
Well, before we go, since we're talking fantasy, give me your Bills fantasy sleeper player.
Oh, okay, I like that.
We all know just Josh Allen, is going to be a top 3 fantasy quarterback, but what about anybody else?
I'll go first.
Yep.
I'm a special teams guy, admittedly. It's part of the positions I played. And I don't know if he's necessarily a sleeper given where I think he got ranked positionally. But Tyler Bass really intrigues me at kicker this year.
Kicker, huh?
Yeah, well, look, you need him anyway. I know, well, some leagues I think I know have gotten away from him, but in both leagues we still have him. And it's proven, I think, especially over the course of the past few years, right? But if you have a good kicker on your roster for fantasy, can get you some points. I mean, look at the Justin Tucker effect. Justin Tucker got drafted.
Well, you can have the right kicker.
But Tyler Bass, to me, a team that should be scoring a lot. Now, where it might hamper a little bit, right, later on in the year potentially for the outdoor stuff in Buffalo. But that being said, for especially I'd say up until their bye week, which is usually when kickers and defenses kind of go haywire a little bit. I like Tyler Bass. I think he's going to be on the field a lot, whether it's at least getting the extra points or at least plenty of good opportunities to make makeable field goals. I think he's a guy to look at because, frankly, and this is where maybe I class him as a sleeper, he doesn't talk about like your Justin Tuckers or going the Rolodex here a little bit, like McManus back in the day a little bit or any of those guys. So that's who I'm going with. I'll take the lame pick and say the kicker, Tyler Bass.
All right. I think me and Kyle might be saying the same guy, so I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I truly, like I kind of already said, I think Gabe Davis has a big year. There's times, of course, when Diggs is going to get double-teamed, and I think that just leaves, a guy like Gabe Davis open. And, we saw what he can do, like I said, that rookie year. So, yeah, that's a guy that, probably not a lot of people are going to be like, oh, I'm going to draft Gabe Davis tonight.
I think you can reach for Gabe Davis. I'm thinking maybe I'll draft Gabe Davis tonight. Of course, in our league, there's a lot of Bills fans, so it's tough to get. There's also a couple Cowboys fans, which is fine. I don't like drafting Cowboys because I don't like to root for the Cowboys. But same as you, he's my guy. I think he's going to be, has been under, if you look at his average draft position, he's been a little undervalued for the type of numbers that I expect him to put up this year. So I got to agree with Kyle and go with Gabe Davis.
Yeah, and I wanted to stay away from like Dalton Kincaid because again, we don't know how he's going to be used. But say Dawson Knox wasn't on this team and it was just Kincaid, then I would kind of like the pick more. But
Somebody in my league tonight will draft Dalton Kincaid way too early, and then I'll take someone like T.J. Hawkinson or something. You know.
yeah, I have him. A great
Yeah.
pick.
I'm about to say I have Hawkinson as well in my one draft I've done so far.
It seems like a lot of people don't know about him. It's like this guy's good.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And locked up long term in Minnesota. So,
Yeah.
All right. So I think on that note we'll head out here. So again, we'll be back again this time next Tuesday, and after that will be Monday. So long as the Bills keep playing, I guess, on Sunday for the foreseeable future at that point.
Yep.
But yeah, that'll be the schedule. Like I said, Monday Night Football will be back on Tuesdays. Other than that, be back on Mondays, recapping the Bills week, looking ahead to what they have for the week ahead. Jim, Kyle, appreciate you guys as always.
Thanks, Paul.
yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. And so, like I said before, subscribe to us here on YouTube, fingerlings1.com. Catch Bills weekly there or on any major podcasting platform. And let's go Buffalo.